A bar chart's a way of looking at categorical or discrete data. In this question, we're asked to read a bar chart. We want to work out how many pupils gave cricket as their favourite sport. So what I'm going to do is go across my x-axis to cricket, and then I'm going to look up the graph, up the stairs, and I can see that it's 25 pupils who like cricket. How many more pupils preferred cricket compared to tennis? Well, to work this out, I could first of all read how many liked cricket, which was 25. Then I could read how many liked tennis, which was 20. And the difference is obviously going to be 5. If I'm asked what the difference is, what was the difference in the number of pupils who preferred the most highly favoured sport to those who preferred the least favoured sport, I need to look at the highest bar, which is for rugby, and the lowest bar, which is for badminton, and work out the differences in heights, which is 40 take away 10, which is 30. To work out how many pupils are included in the bar chart, I need to look at the heights of each bar, because the bars tell us, the heights of the bars tell us the frequencies, which is the number of pupils who prefer each sport. So I look at the height of each bar, and I add them up, and I should get 145. So that means 145 pupils are represented in the bar chart. Finally, this word modal sport just wants the mode. The mode, as we've seen before, is the value with the highest frequency, or the value that comes up the most, and we can see here that that is rugby. Here's a question for you to try. Please pause the video now and have a go, and when you're ready for the answer, press play. Here is the answer. For question 6, you might have found this a bit tricky. The average rainfall is going to be the total amount of rainfall for April, because there are 30 days in April, and we know from the bar chart that if I go across to April and up, that there's 6 centimetres of rainfall that month. So I need to do 6 centimetres divided by how many days are in April, which is 30, which gives me 0.2 centimetres per day. As we've seen before, to change from centimetres to millimetres, we multiply by 10. 0.2 times 10 is 2, so we have 2 millimetres per day. It's important to be aware that there are different types of data. Continuous data can take any value within a certain range. So this could be something like the amount of rainfall that we have in a certain time period. We have discrete data, which is described entirely by whole numbers. So the number of people in a class, number of goals in a football match, etc. And then there's categoric data, which is things like labels. This could be people's favourite colour or people's hair colour, or so on. The bar chart allows us to represent categorical data, discrete data, or, well, really that's about it really, categorical or discrete data. For example, if we look here, this is the graph that we had earlier, and we have the categorical or discrete data on the x-axis. This is why we have bars, equally spaced bars, this is why our bars are equally spaced, and the discrete or continuous data can go on the y-axis. So if you remember earlier, we had a bar chart to do with rainfall, amount of rainfall. That would be continuous data, but here we're showing how many pupils like different sports. It should be frequency up here. We should always label our axes. And what we can see here, this is actually discrete data because there's only a certain number of pupils that like different sports. When drawing a bar chart, we need to remember to label our axes and make sure that we have an even scale on both of our axes. So here's an example of how we would draw a bar chart using a tally chart. So the tally chart is not completely filled in. We need to complete this first. So there are 12 people that like football, sorry. So to put that into tallies, as we've seen in tally charts before, I would need to do 5, 10, 11, 12 tally marks. If I read how many tally marks there are for rugby, there's 7, because 5 means that you put 4 and then draw a sideways line through them all. Badminton, there's 2, and golf has not been completed yet. So if we just complete that quickly, for golf there's 4. And what we can do now is draw the bar chart. Frequency always goes on the y-axis with bar charts, and on the x-axis we've got the sports. So again, making sure that we've labelled our axes. I'm going to make sure that all of my bars are equally spaced, so I'm leaving a gap of 2 between them. That's up to me, and then I'm going to draw my bars. So again, they're all equally spaced, and I've used the same colour, and this represents my data. Notice that on the y-axis I have an even scale. I'm going up in 2s, and there's no erratic jumps or anything like that. We should also label it, so we should also label this bar chart of Bob's classmates' favourite sports, maybe. Here's a question for you to try. Please pause the video now and have some squared paper at the ready to draw the bar chart. So I'd like you to draw the bar chart and then use it to answer the questions 2 to 4. Pause the video now and have a go, and when you're ready for the answer, press play. Here are the answers. Angharad's drawn some bar charts, but she's made some mistakes. Let's have a look if we can notice what mistakes she's made. So if we look at this bar chart here, what mistakes do you notice? You should notice that the bars are not equally spaced. And this, when we have normal bar charts, they should have equally spaced bars. The problem with this bar chart is that there are no gaps, and we need gaps because bar charts on the x-axis always have discrete or categorical data. It's not continuous data, so we need bars. Later on, we might look at histograms, which do not have gaps, and there's a good reason for that. But bar charts, because they're not using continuous data on the x-axis, need to have equally spaced gaps. There's also no units on the y-axis. I don't know if this is the average height of a man in feet or meters or whatever. This bar chart, the mistake's a little bit more subtle, but if you notice, the y-axis has an irregular scale. It's not going up in the same amount, which means that this is a completely wrong bar chart mathematically. So this is probably one of the worst issues you could have. There's also, more subtly, no label on the x-axis. You know, they should say name or name of Angharad's friends or something like that.